From Bluey's baby years to her grown-up self, I have recently watched the entire series of Bluey and instantly fell in love with it. So, this is my top 10 favorite episodes of Bluey. Number 10 starts us with Season 1, Episode 7, Barbecue. Let's first state the fact that I can relate to Bingo, to the constant barrage that was making the salad. Poor kid just could not get a break, and I know it.
Whose muddy footprints are these?
Whenever I was at the cabin or with my dad, they'd work me until my butt fell off. I could not rest for 5 minutes without a, "Trey, come do this." Anyway, I do have a few good memories of barbecues, and they always have such great food. Best during the summer poolside, to be honest. I have one memory, though, where it was 4th of July, and after a long day of swimming, there was burgers and hot dogs, and my old buddies were there, and we decided to go onto the roof to watch all the fireworks. And it was spectacular seeing a fireworks show from one side of the city to the other side. Number 9 is Season 3, Episode 20, Driving. This episode makes perfect sense for where I am in life right now, learning to drive. This episode also reminds me of that imaginary driving that I did with my cousin. But back to being serious, this episode explains that kids have the wildest dreams when it comes to driving, and that's how I was too as a kid. Come to think of it, when I did this imaginary driving, I would always make it look like I was crazy, like a crazy driver. The good old days. And it was after a long day of swimming in the pool. It was a really fun time. And now that I am learning how to drive, it has become a reality, and it's still quite fun too, because, it reminds me of all those times that I used to pretend how to drive. Number 8 on this list is Season 3, Episode 50, Surprise. This was a great way to end the season and the series with a surprise. This episode had no connection to me apart from Bandit playing 2 games at once, and that's how I feel sometimes with my cousins. They would go from playing tag in the house to playing some restaurant game within minutes. Yeah, that got a little bit tiring, but that's how kids are. But at the very end, something made me wonder, who's that little one that rang the doorbell? Bluey's kid, possibly? The moral of this episode was that time goes by so fast, even parents don't. You go from babyhood to adulthood within what feels like minutes. It's honestly crazy. Next up, number 7, Season 3, Episode 26, Fairy Tale. This episode explains how Bandit and Chili first met in the 80s and reminds me of all the stories that my grandparents and parents told me growing up. And in hearing those stories, it's wild to think how crazy the 80s truly were. My parents had wacky stories of how they met and pictures of them in the 80s and 90s like this episode because of how it shows that everyone has a fairy tale that is actually true. In 6th on the list is Season 1, Episode 38, Copycat. This episode delves into possibly the most saddest part in life, death, in the form of a budgie that fell from a tree and passed away. Now, Bluey sure felt the sadness of a dead budgie, but I felt it the most. One year, when I went on a trip to Detroit, Michigan for the summer, my dad left the heater on and we had pet parakeets. After we got back, all 3 of them sadly passed away, and I was devastated from this for about a week or 2. Bluey does get quite serious in episodes, and for me, this was one of them. Starting the top 5 is Season 2, Episode 34, Swim Lessons. This episode is perfect for starting the top 5, where Bingo, Chili, and Bandit are all, somewhat, getting swim lessons by the great Margaret. It reminded me of all the times that I learned how to swim, from the first house to Camp Land on the Bay. I remembered how exciting it was when I did the length of the pool or lap around it. Now sure, I didn't have a crazy person teaching me to swim like how Margaret was, but rather my mom, and I must have been until age 8, I would have to say, that I successfully learned how to swim. Coming in at number 4 is Season 2, Episode 16, Army. I can relate to Jack and how he thinks about himself. ADHD was rough, and I was a terrible student in 1st through 4th grade, getting C's, D's, and F's, and multiple lunch detentions, and one instance of an ISS. Afterwards, my parents put me on medication and multiple different therapists, and now I'm having the best life ever so far. Now, I actually do have a connection with the armed forces in me going into the Navy soon. And how they play Army and play boot camp was just cute to see. Coming in third on the list is Season 2, Episode 26, Sleepy Time. It's nighttime in Australia, and the family is going to sleep. However, Bingo has some of the cutest dreams as we follow her through the journey of space. After hatching out of the cradle, Earth, we see her stuffed bunny, Floppy. And while this dream is happening, it's happening in the real world as well. We see her go onto Neptune, then to Jupiter, then possibly the most funniest part is... And now for the saddest part. After Bluey takes the blanket off the bed, we can see both Floppy and Bingo freezing on a small, desolate planet. And seeing Saturn, Floppy leaves Bingo and leads to Chili, comforting Bingo and saying this fantastic line.
Remember, I'll always be here for you, even if you can't see me, because I love you.
See what I mean? So cute. Anyways, she completes her mission and wakes up in her own bed and does a big girl sleep. Good on you, Bingo. In second place is Season 2, Episode 24, Flat Pack. This episode doesn't have any connections to me, however, it explained the life cycle through a game that Bingo and Bluey plays. For me, unfortunately, it did not hit me right away, but after hard research, I did understand the meaning of this episode. While Chili and Bandit are working on a bench swing, Bluey and Bingo are playing outside. As they are working on that, the parents throw stuff to the kids that they use to play their game. Starting with bubble wrap as fish, and ending with an Allen key, and building a huge city. At the end, we see Bingo go off and explore space with her rocket ship, and Bluey entering old age, and goes to the bench swing to enter heaven. Either the saddest or best parts of the episode is when Bandit says this.
This is heaven.
And now, for some honorable mentions.
Honorable mention number 3, Season 3, Episode 42, Show and Tell. I remember I brought a stuffed animal parrot from a movie, Rio, Blue, to school, thinking it was Show and Tell Day. And it wasn't, and in punishment for lying, my mom cut up my stuffed animal and threw it away. Honorable mention number 2, Season 2, Episode 50, Baby Race. At age 2, I started walking and was fully potty trained. But this one was possibly the silliest episode, especially where baby Bluey was just rolling around the floor.
Gosh dang it, Bluey, not again.
I love that so much. And lastly, honorable mention number 1, Season 3, Episode 18, Rain. Every time when it rained in Arizona or in New Mexico, it was the best. Having that great rain smell and afterwards jumping in puddles or playing in the mud was so fun. Especially afterwards when a rainbow appeared. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the number 1 and best episode of the entire series. Well, for me, that is Season 3, Episode 49, The Sign. This 28-minute special tops the list as it has connected me with moving. However, I have only moved out of state once. Since moving out from Arizona, life has been quite a big adventure, like how Chili was saying throughout the episode. And this episode goes into detail of how stressful moving is, for both kid and adult. But regardless, there are still big adventures waiting for those that move. And sure, it is very difficult moving, but that's just how life is. I love this episode and think this is perfect for a list topper. Side note, after the episode, I literally started crying after I said I still remember where everything was in my old room, where I used to have a playmat, a bunk bed. God, I still miss that old house. Well, there you have it. If Bluey has taught me one thing, it's just do what you love no matter what happens. If you love being crazy, do it. If being a meteorologist is what you love doing, then do it. Nothing can stop that pride that you have. So remember, if your family decided to move, it's going to be rough for sure, but you can still do the things you love. This is Trayson, signing out.
know I like to smack my bum as hard as I can.
Fair use and copyright. All credit goes to the following companies: Australian Broadcast Company, British Broadcast Company, BBC, and Ludo Studios, along with the creators of Bluey, Joe Brum, Richard Jeffrey, David McCormick, and Melanie Zanetti. Including all audio clips. Thank you. And thank you viewers for watching my video. Have a good day.